Okay, perfect. Okay, then we'll start. If you have a question. So there's a presentation on the Rotterdam Business School, particularly on the focus on the part-time education that we do. If you have any questions, please drop a note in the chat box. I will regularly look at the chat box, but since I'm doing everything by myself, it's a bit tricky. This should take about maximum an hour, and if you have any questions, just leave a note in the chat. Yeah. Other than that, I'll just start with the presentation right now. Okay. Yeah. So why choose RBS? And RBS stands for the Rotterdam Business School, for the ones that don't know. And this is actually trying to explain why should you actually be studying at this RBS. First of all, it's very global. And I have to look at my papers because I can't see the slides myself. We have about 70% of the students are internationally. We have an extremely international education. Just to give you an example, the current cohort that we have of about 100 students that started in February this year, they actually have 24 different nationalities. We are partnering with more than 100 universities worldwide. The curriculum is designed for the global business environment. We're really focusing on that. We're integrating with the industry here in the Netherlands, but also worldwide. We do real world projects. All that sort of things is taking part in here. Then we also have what we call career-focused education. If I reflect on myself, when I studied, you just got some technical things that you had to do, but there was no interest whatsoever for how you would actually work or how you would make a better one of yourself. And how would you actually perform, that you get feedback on that sort of things. Well, that is all different here. So a career-focused education. And that's reflected in the fact that about 40% of the curriculum involves practical assignments. So it's a very practical education. That's also why we call it applied science. We apply the science, what you learn here, we are going to apply it. We are going to see it work in real time. It's an English taught master with this very international group of students. Obviously, the language is English. So all the assignments that we do, all the explanations, all the courses, we do in English. If you look at employability, the fact that if you look at people that actually did this education, how do they end up on the labor market? Well, we have about 90% of those students have a job within 6 months. So that is a fantastic track record. But apart from that, of course, we also have what we call academic excellence. And academic excellence is about that we really comply with the very strict international standards that are set. We have student support. So we offer career services, internship opportunities, access to multinational operations and startups, that sort of things. We work very intensively with the very dynamic environment that we have here in the Netherlands, and particularly in Rotterdam. So almost in any subject that you do, there will be interaction with real companies, presentations that you have to do, visits, try to solve problems from them. It's a very comprehensive program. Okay. Why choose RBS? So we call them strategic pillars. So we are looking at a purpose economy. We're looking at a circular economy. We're focusing very much on sustainability and circularity. We focus on digital economy. If you look at what happened and the transition that we're in with the AI applications and things, those are actually the things where we focus on. We focus on leadership. Apart from academic teaching that we do, we also put quite some emphasis on your personal growth, on your personal behavior. So there is a continuous a focus on how are you as a person? How can you improve yourself? How can you be the better of yourself? Those are really things where we put focus on as well. But in generally, if we talk about a master in supply chain, I mean, why would you choose to be a master in supply chain? Why would you choose an education like this one? Well, if we look at the drivers of the supply chain, it's currently what we see is the digital transformation. Yeah. And I don't have to explain that, but if you look at the world around us with all particularly over the last 10 years, there's been a massive change in that, and that has its effect on supply chain. Yeah, we focus on sustainability, as I said, circular economy as well. We are living in a world where we can't endlessly consume the world as we did before, as my generation did, for instance. So we really have to look at sustainability and circularity. Yeah, we also have a growing complexity of global tracks. Yeah? If you look at all the issues that we have, for instance, if you look today, the discussion in the Netherlands about chips fabrication and a company that is not delivering anymore, you see immediately that the car industry in Germany is going to complain about these things because everything is so mixed with each other. Yeah, and the world has become a very complex place. Yeah, so there is more demands of people who can manage those processes. There's a need for resilience and risk management, and resilience meaning that if something changes, that still your whole supply chain doesn't collapse, that you can still continue the way you want to do. Yeah. So resilience is something with the world that we see around us, with trade barriers, with trade tariffs, with all sorts of risks. The risk that something happens and immediately stops your whole supply chain is really something, that has changed a lot. Yeah, e-commerce, omnichannel retail, that is today's world. Yeah. If we look at industry demand, and what we mean by industry demand is how wanted are the people that have done the master's program at the RBS. Well, there is actually that's a very prosper and a very, very positive sign. If you look at global demand, and global demand for supply chain managers or people who are at a master's level in supply chain management, that is projected to grow with 30% between 2020 and 2030. That is really so the number of jobs, the number of opportunities that will arise are really going to increase tremendously. Yeah, and all as a result of the drivers that I mentioned earlier. If you look at Europe, if you look at the European projection, what does Europe say about this? Currently, they have a 6-to-1 shortage ratio. That means that for every supply chain educated person, there is something like 6 opportunities at least to enter up into. So the demand is 6 times as big as the supply of those people. So in other words, the labor market is very attractive for these sort of persons. Yeah, and we have, of course, the Dutch, we have the ambition to retain our position as a leading logistics nation. So we have an interest to educate you here. Yeah, we really want to be the front runner at the port of Rotterdam, one of the most sophisticated ports in the world. We need high quality people. We need high quality people who can actually drive that process. So that is the reason. Yeah. So all in all, it's very hands-on, the education that you get. It's applied science. So you have to apply the knowledge that you pick up here. That is really what we're looking for. It's extremely international. If ever you wanted to work in an international environment or study in an international environment, look at this opportunity and the 24 nationalities I mentioned earlier. I'll look. There's somebody in the chat. Yeah, okay. Simon is leaving. My colleague is leaving, so that's fine. He's confident that I will do a good job. Okay, we'll see. Where was I? I was here. Yeah. Okay. The program overview, and this is the full-time program overview, but so we will not take too many. We will not look too much at it. That's the 1-year program. It's 60 ACTs. It's in English language. We have 2 times when we start in September and February. Yeah, and for the part-time, we only have one starting point per year, and that is February. So everybody who starts in the part-time program, there's only one starting moment, and that is next February, once per year. That's important to know. Now, why choose an MSc at RBS? Yeah? Now, first of all, I mean, we are committed to SDGs, and we have an international focus. We have an employment success. We have an applied focus. There's industry demand. This is a bit of a summary of what I said before. There is very much the international perspective. There is not a single university on supply chain management that is as international as this one. It is really a relevant curriculum. So we really balance science, and also applied science. We balance practice with academic education, and we do that. We believe in 3 strategic pillars. Yeah, this is what we call our strategic house. So this is the vision that we have. Yeah, there is 3 things where we focus on if we do the education here, and that is what we call SKAs, and SKAs stand for the S for skills. So we teach skills. You will learn skills that you need to work in a supply chain environment. Knowledge, we will build up knowledge. We will give you a lot of knowledge about all sorts of concepts, all sorts of things that are related to supply chain management. But we also invest in attitude. Yeah, and Rotterdam has a slogan to say "Make it happen." So in other words, let's go for it. And that is also the sort of mentality that we have here in this education. Let's go for it. Forward thinking, resilience, that sort of things we're thinking about. And it's really important. That's really a mentality issue, and we really focus on that as well. So we say, okay, come on, make that presentation. Okay, you may have only had 5 minutes of preparation, but let's go, let's do it. This is a safe environment. This is where you can do that sort of things. So that is really the vision that we have. Yeah. If we look at specifically about what do we promise then to people? What do we really promise? And we say, look, our promise is that we're going to inspire you to become the best that you can be. Yeah. And that's different from to say we're going to make the very best of you. No, we will make the best form of yourself. So you will actually be forced to actually perform to what you can do. And for everybody, that level is a little bit different, but that is what we are aiming for. That is our promise to you. That is what we will, if you are here and you're in the part-time program for 2 years, that is what we will take out of you. Okay, then if we look at the program, yeah, and let me look at my paper. Yeah, if we look at the part-time, what is and the part-time is divided in 2 years. Yeah, so the first year on the left-hand side, the year is divvied up in blocks. Blocks are basically 2 to 3 months periods. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. And then for the part-time, because they do it in 2 years, they have 5, 6, 7, and 8. And here you can see the subjects that are taught during the blocks. Yeah, so on the first-hand side, on block 1 and 2 and 3, we will focus more on knowledge-related stuff. Yeah. Then continuously coming up to more skills related stuff. And also the attitude thing is actually continuously looked at. Yeah, if you look at the big block on the right-hand side, performance coaching, you continuously get performance coaching. Yeah, there is a dedicated person who will take you in the class or separately or do all sorts of exercises, and you continuously are triggered to actually develop yourself. Yeah. So if you look at the left-hand side for block 1, 2, 3, and 4, that is like the first year that we do. Yeah. So block 1 is starting in February, and block 2 is then the second block before the summer, and 3 are 4, and 4 are the blocks after the summer. Yeah, so there's a lot of knowledge and skills being put in, and you can see already if you look at block 5 and 6, there is still quite a bit of information transfer. But as from block 7 and 8, you can see actually that then the focus is on writing your thesis, or a capstone, if we call it, a problem with a certain company that you are going to investigate. And that is what we have, what we call the graduate portfolio on the right-hand side. Because in the end, we are an academic institution. And yes, we are very pragmatic, and we have a lot regarding applied science, but still there is, of course, academic requirements. And one of the requirements is that you have to write a thesis, or what we call a capstone. Yeah? And if you've done a bachelor degree, you may already be familiar with that, but there's also a lot of training around that. But that is the end game of your education. So if you look at these, it is normally 1 day a week, and normally it's every Thursday in the week that there is lessons, that there is lectures. And then at the very end, and block 7 and 8, that's basically half a year where you can dedicate on writing your thesis, or your capstone, as we call it. Yeah? Okay. I hope you can follow me, because it's very difficult to get, because I can't hear you. Then if we look at the learning approach, that is again, that's a bit of a summary, and you can see indeed knowledge, skills, and attitude, and you see what falls under those things. Yeah? And all those individual 9 different bits will be educated. And they will actually, if you look at the learning approach execution on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side, we tell, okay, what are we going to teach you? On the right-hand side, we are actually explaining how we're going to do that. Yeah. So there is a big focus on collaborative learning, meaning that you have to work together in groups. There's a lot of assignments that you have to do group-wise. Yeah? And there is a reason for that, because that in your working life is the same. Yeah. You also have to work a lot together. So really we focused on this, and we put a lot of emphasis on those sort of group processes, and also internationally, because you'll be working with 24 different nationalities. So it is challenging, but it is very rewarding. Yeah. There is research integration. That's what I said earlier on. There is a focus on applied science in courses and capstone projects. So there is really also a focus on academic sources that you're going to use to do your capstone or your thesis. Yeah. Then there is something that we call intercultural awareness. You can imagine it is not straightforward if you all of a sudden have to work together with a person that comes from a completely different background, completely different part of the world, and still what binds you is that you both have the same drive to resolve this case, or to perform this project. And that is something which is worth a lot. And intercultural awareness is also very important for you to understand how the rest of the world works. If you're in supply chain management, it's almost by definition, it is something international. So have an understanding how other cultures work and how other people think is worth a lot. And we put a lot of focus on that. Yeah. There's also, lastly, then what we call the leadership focus. So we also focus on you to develop as a manager. Yeah. Because you are going to be a master of science. And that means that really, you will probably be hired for things like leadership positions. So we will put focus or emphasis on that as well. Yes, and that if you combine those two, you have the ideal, perfect 21st century supply chain manager, the ideal picture. Okay. Now, if we talk about applied science or applied learning approach, where does it reflect it? Now, here we have a nice picture of us visiting the Maasvlakte For the non-Dutch, I mean, that's a bit it's a big reclaimed part of land that is actually part of the port of Rotterdam. But okay, the applied learning approach is actually reflected in the fact that we have guest lectures. We regularly invite people from large companies, from large institutions, to actually give lectures to you, to broaden your horizon. There's an international project, what we call Living Lab. A Living Lab is basically that with all students you go and actually go to a company, look at a problem which they have and try to define a solution for that. But you do that with the whole group. We also have the sustainability pressure cooker, and the pressure cooker is really that is almost at the end of your sort of formal education before you go to write your thesis or your capstone. And the pressure cooker is really something where actually with a group, it takes a whole week. There is a group, or you're actually put up in groups, 5 or 6 or 8 or 7 people, and there is a problem, or there is a company that needs advice on a certain thing, and then actually you will be working together for about 3 or 4 days on end, and there's even all-nighters because there's high pressure. That's why we call it the pressure cooker. There is a strict deadline. On Monday you hear the case. On Monday you get information from the company itself, and on Friday morning you have to present your solution. That's the pressure cooker. Now, that's a very rewarding thing. Then we have the thesis and the capstone project. That's what I said at the end. You, in order to become a master, you need to write a thesis or what we call a capstone. It's basically it's slightly different, but most people write a capstone. That is a problem with a company, and many of you will be working at a company, so it might be a problem in your own company, and you write formally. What is the problem? What are your research questions? What is your research attitude? What are your conclusions? So we take you through a whole thesis project. Then there's conferences and events that we go to regularly, and we also do every time we do a visit to the port of Rotterdam, which is very nice because it really gives people the background of what we're doing here. Yeah. Okay. Professional application, supply chain living lab. That is actually that's what I explained earlier on. There you see a company, and you see a number of people from the company standing in front of the board, and for the rest, the whole cohort is actually trying to find out what is really going on there, and what can we contribute. And it's a living lab because it is really like working in a real company, or it is a real company, but it's like you're working there, and we do that with the whole group. Just as an example. Then the other one is the pressure cooker, and here you see a number of examples of examples of actually pressure cookers that we had in previously. So you can see the sort of subjects that we had. So I see companies like IKEA, many different companies that actually were part of this. And they were, for the whole week, they delivered data, they explained the problem, and they triggered us to come up with solutions. And that is what the pressure cooker is about. By the way, I just realized I did not even introduce myself, of course, because I was so busy with the technicalities. My name is Leon de Veld, and I'm the coordinator for the part-time education. So there you know me. And I come from the field. I worked in, actually I still work part-time in a normal company. So I teach a number of days a week, but for the rest, I've always worked in companies like shipping companies, logistics companies, trading companies, all sorts of things. So I've worked all my life in business, and that counts for a lot of the teachers here, is that all those people have, they're not academics, they have a lot of knowledge about the real world around us. Okay. Then if we talk about professional portrait, that is the sort of part where we actually keep the way you are developing yourself during those 2 years. After all those sessions, and you reflect on yourself, and you actually think about yourself as a professional. You'll see how your attitude has grown, and all those things together, we call that a professional portrait, and it's part of the graduate portfolio. So the graduate portfolio is the thesis / capstone on one side, plus the professional portrait. Those things go hand in hand. Those are the last two blocks of your education. So in your second year, yeah. But this is very rewarding because it opens your eyes, and people and you can really benefit a lot from it. Yeah. So the applied research thesis or capstone. Thesis is more really focused on research. And there's actually a few people who actually do that. Most people do a capstone, and that means it's a practical problem. It's a problem mostly in a company where you either work or you work as an intern or that sort of things. And you can use your knowledge of that company, and you also have access to that to the data of that company, and that is actually where you write your capstone on. And it's a process that normally takes something like 3 to 4 months. Before that, you will have been educated at least 2 blocks by how do you do these things. How do you make a good research proposal? How do you organize research? Where do you have to look at? How do you define research questions? That whole process, that's a separate subject, which will be taught to you as well. And from the RBS, you will get appointed supervisor. For instance, I'm supervising around 10 students as well in the whole writing process. So you get assistance in how to write these things, and people will give you tips and hints and make sure that you do the right things. And then at the very end, when you actually have finished your capstone, and when the supervisor thinks that it is at least sufficient, then you are going up for your defense, as we call it. Yeah, and that is the next slide. That is your defense, and that is really where everything comes together, because there you have to prove that you are really a master, that you are a master of your own destination, or your own destiny, but also that you master the education that you have actually gained. And really you have to show that you're really worth the title of master, because after this defense, if you pass, then from that moment on you are a master of supply chain management and MSc. So that is really the end of the story. Now, if you look at the team, a bit about the people that we talk about. As we said, we have two supply chain educations. Basically, we have got the 1 year master, and we have the part-time master, which is the 2 year master. Now, but the teachers are to a large extent the same. So here you see a number of teachers, and well, you can't maybe see it, but it's very international. It ranges from Dr. Chris, who comes from Greece, people from South Africa, from India, from the Netherlands, obviously, from China, from Vietnam, from Greece again, from the Netherlands. It's a very experienced and international number of people. Okay. So who should apply? That's the big question, of course, because it's all nice, and you can say, well, Leon, you have a nice story and you tell it very nicely, but who should apply? Now, it is, we always say, look, the program is ideal for professionals, so people who are working already, who are working in a company, and they are eager to engage with complex global supply chain challenges. That is something that you must have an interest in that. But okay, as one of the requirements is that you work in a company, and most people will probably work in a logistics company. We assume that you're eager to engage with complex global supply chain challenges. Yeah. So we're looking at ambitious recent business graduates, yeah, who are looking to pursue a career further, but also graduates from non-business disciplines. So, but at least then you need 3 years of work experience or business-related experience, and also who seek a career in supply chain. It's not a necessity, but very often that's the way it goes. Or professionals who are in the early stage of their career. So people are working. We have, for instance, people working for IKEA or for Ahold, which is the big retailer here, and they've been working there for 3 or 4 years, and they want to make a step up, and they do this part-time master. It is very often that sort of people that are motivated, and that's what we are focusing on. So professional outcomes again. Career opportunities. If we talk about career opportunities, if you look at our graduates, people who have graduated from this education, they work in roles such as supply chain manager or logistics coordinators. It depends a little bit on the size of the company they work for, or as an operations manager, sustainability consultants, mostly or often in multinational companies, but it's not a necessity. It can also just be a local company that happens to export or import a lot from other countries. That can also be the case. We also offer an alumni network. We always ask people when they graduate to leave their credentials. We regularly invite them for all sorts of things, also to do presentations or have discussions or that sort of things. And okay, we really want to have a real world impact. And that's what we are focusing on very much. Although we are an academic institution, we try that what we take pride in is that our graduates they can lead transitions to resilient, sustainable supply chains. So we give them the tools to actually make that transformation. And that is one of the transitions that we are looking at in current days. Now then, how to apply? There's a number of admission requirements. I would say the best for you is to go to the website, because there the most updated list of requirements is there. And I've roughly indicated what we have, but it's always good to actually contact them directly. If you go to the website, or if you follow, if you take a picture of this or scan this picture, then actually you will end up directly on the right page to see what the requirements are. Also offered as a part-time. That is what we are. So the full-time is on the left-hand side, and I assume you are not there for the full-time. But if you're there for the part-time, look at the right-hand side of this slide. And the part-time and the full-time, there is no difference in degree. That's just to make it clear for people. You end up with the same degree, but there are different routes, and there's different in-class experience. What we normally say is, look, the discussions that we have with the people who do the part-time, the discussions are normally deeper because they have experience. They know how things work in companies. So the discussions are different. In the full-time master, those are people who are mostly coming directly from their bachelor degree from any place in the world. And okay, that is a little bit more, how do you say that? The Dutch word is schoolish, schools. But okay, this is a bit more mature. The part-time is more mature than the full-time. It is, as I said, it is 2 years program, 1 day per week. Thursday is a day we chose many years ago because simply that is for people who work, a relatively a comfortable day. Friday is never a good one. Monday is never a good one after the weekend. Wednesday is never a good one because there are of course people who also look after their children, and Wednesday is then a bad time. So we focus and we keep it on the Thursday. So the first opportunity to start, as I said, once per year we start with the part-time program, and that's in February. So for the February cohort, as we call it, if you are interested, please have a look at the site and see what deadlines there are. So there's a 60 ECT master's degree. Okay, that means that that is internationally required for a master's degree, that it's 60 ECT points. Yeah. The admission criteria here are also summarized. Bachelor degree in logistics-based subject, plus 2 years of working experience within the logistics professional field. That is the and sometimes if you don't completely match the requirements, please still go through admission, because there's always possibilities to look at things differently. Yeah. Applicants with a bachelor's degree in a business-related subject plus 3 years of working experience within the logistics professional field, or applicants with an unrelated bachelor degree. So you have something which is absolutely not real. Yeah, for instance, you have done law or something, bachelor in law, with 5 or more years of experience in the supply chain or logistics field may also apply. Yeah. So what I was going to say, and I will repeat, check with the admissions office if you're really interested, and then we can see what can be done. Okay, there's a number of questions. I will go to the chat now and I'll read them, or I'll try to give some answers to you. Is there a minimum? Dan says, is there a minimum amount of work experience necessary in years to apply for the master? Well, Dan, I think I just gave you the answer. There is, there is, if you have a logistics-based bachelor, then you need at least 2 years of working experience. But again, so there is a requirement normally, but please check that with the admissions office through the website. Okay. Is the IELTS mandatory? I have proficiency in English and I work. Yeah, Simona, that's a question. She asks whether IELTS is mandatory. I have the proficiency in English and I work years with English. That is also something that what mostly happens if people don't comply exactly with the requirements, we at least will have an interview and we'll see what the working level is. So again, don't immediately say, oh well, it's mandatory, I'm not going to apply, because we can look at those things. Then Simona has a question. Is this all day on Thursdays or only afternoon? Can somebody who works attend this master? Yes, definitely. In fact, everybody who is attending this master currently is working. They manage this with their company. So that's why we kept it always on Thursday. So it is easy for people to plan ahead, but count on keeping the whole of that Thursday available, because for your interest, the full-time master is a master that is 1 year in an average 4 days a week, and you are trying to do this in 2 years in 1 day a week. So the program is slightly different, but nevertheless you will have a very fully loaded schedule. Yeah, but it is really focusing on people that are already working. Yeah. What are the school hours on Thursday? Okay, that's good. Well, roughly, I think normally, depending a little bit on schedules, but if we start in the morning, it's 9 o'clock start, it depends on. Normally, we go on to 4 o'clock or maybe even 5 o'clock, but that depends really on the block. So it's not a fixed time, but normally it is between 9 and 5, I would say. Yeah, and also very often sometimes it starts at 10, so you have a bit more time to get there. Okay, then there's another question from Olina. Could you possibly share how much is the practical approach during the program? Well, it's all very practical, because everything that you There's nothing like just we give you a book and we say you learn a book, you learn a book by head, and you are going to do an exam and that's it. No, the exams are very often about assignments that you have to make, practical assignments. So you have to make things from making videos about problems, or you have to come up with presentations about these things. So it is all very practical. It is not like we educate, we take a textbook, we educate you that, and that's it. No, it's not. If we talk about strategy, we will select a company and we will ask you to write that strategy for that company. So that is really where we are, where we pride ourselves in. It is very hands-on. I hope I've answered your question. Okay, are students able to choose their capstone or thesis topics related to their own professional interest? Absolutely. Yeah. So the short answer is yes. We are not. Sometimes the institution actually decides what the topics are. No, here you have to come up with your own topic, and of course, hopefully related to the company where you work for, because that means that you have good access to data and you know how these things work. And in a thesis or a capstone, it is really important. What is the problem? What are you going to study in literature, and how are you going to apply it in reality? That is in very short terms the way these things go. Yeah. So really, yes, you can choose your own subject as long as it's supply chain related. But okay, it can be very wide. It can also be around ERP systems, for instance, enterprise resource planning systems. As long as they have some relationship with the supply chain, then the subject is good. Okay. Let me see. Will the lessons be recorded? No. We want people to be there. We don't believe in online things, and that's of course that's an interesting thing. Me now talking to you through a webinar. No, but we occasionally we tape things, but occasionally, really, if people have a very good reason that they can't be there, we actually allow them to watch live, but we're not recording it and then sending it afterwards. No, we don't believe in that. Really want people to be together and for the group process, because this is also, if you talk about the part-time, the cohorts are fairly small. You talk about cohorts of 15 to 20 people, so it's very intensive. Yeah, it's not like if you look at the full-time, there is classes of 50 people, sometimes even of 100. But this is very we are very concerned about the quality. So the cohorts are small. Yeah. Then a question from Andre. Hello, professor. Is the program exam or only project oriented? Yeah, it's a mix. We don't really do a lot of exams like in the old days. Like when I studied, I got a thick book. You got some lectures, and you had to actually show what you could on an exam, written exam. That doesn't happen here. Either you make an assignment, as I explained earlier on. So you have to describe, for instance, how the supply chain of a certain car manufacturer is, and what the results are regarding sustainability. There is things where you have to come up with where the final thing is a video, all sorts of different things. Yeah, so it's really a mix, and it's a well-balanced mix, because we are taking care of your workload, obviously. Okay, Kane has a question. One block is about maritime management. That's interesting, because that's what I teach. How does this work if you are working at a logistics provider and not, for example, at a terminal? That doesn't matter, because what on maritime management, we're actually going to change the module a little bit. But what we teach right now is things like what are things happening in the maritime industry at this time. Talk about internationalization, ships getting bigger, terminals getting bigger, that sort of things. We talk about sustainability, about ships actually burning the lowest quality of fuel, and the transition that shipping companies make to LNG ships, that sort of things. So it's really very broad. Yeah? So it works. Yeah, if you work at a logistics provider or at a terminal, anything is good. Yeah. But for some things, yeah, it may be that there is a subject which you know very well. If you work for a shipping company, yeah, you might know what the latest tendencies in the shipping market are. That's true. But on the other hand, there's also quite a number of topics where you probably don't know so much about. So, yeah. Do you already know the exact starting date in Feb 2026? Normally, that's a good question. Normally, that is the first Thursday of February, and it depends a little bit because we have to. So each block is basically 8 different lectures. So you need 8 weeks, and depending a little bit on how the spring break is, Carnival, how Easter is. Sometimes we're a bit. It depends where can we slot it in between those days, and so sometimes it is necessary that we start on the last Thursday of January, but occasionally not. But in any case, the first Thursday of February 2026 is probably the right date. And that's normally the first day is an introduction. We have an introduction, people will be introduced to each other because for the next 2 years you will be working together. So we have a lot of that sort of things of getting to know each other. Is it necessary for the company you work for to be entirely focused on the logistics sector? No, it's not. No, it's not. But it depends a little bit on what the sort of job that you do. So if you are, it can well be that we have people who work for instance, how do you call that? A company making clothes. Yeah, one of the fashion brands. But he works on the logistical side, where he has a relation to the logistical side. So he's also fine to follow this. Yeah. So, but again, if you go to admissions, then there's probably going to be a sort of an interview, probably by me or a colleague, to make sure to give us a little bit of feeling. Okay, what sort of level are you at? What sort of job do you do? And it is also good for yourself because if you don't have that sort of background or you don't work at that sort of company, then to end up in this is not always going to be nice. So it's good, but it's not necessary. No. More questions. Yeah, is there? If anybody has any more questions, I hope actually that it helped a little bit. And of course, it is not ideal because this is one of the first times we use this tool, but it is I can't see any of you. That you can only see me. I'm just talking to a screen, which I don't find ideal. So there is no interaction by what you do. Hopefully, I find it a very nice education. Just about myself, I started economics many years ago. We don't talk about how long that was, but that was very academic and very how do you call that? Very theoretical. And the nice thing of this is that it is very much related to the practical side of things. And those are things that I know about now because I always learned that by I learned it by doing. But the nice thing about this education is that you get a very it is very hands-on and very recognizable if you work in a company. Okay, I guess we leave it at that. Thank you for your attendance. I hope to see you in the near future. That would be always very nice. If you have any questions, go through the website, and if there's any specific questions for me, they will refer you to me. But other than that, thanks for your attention, and have a very good evening. Thank you.